The crowd at the graduation ceremony burst into loud cheers as the final name was called. Students tossed their hats into the air. Bright banners fluttered. Families clapped and cried with joy. I stood in the middle of it all, calm and cold, holding onto a single small box in my hand. Inside it was the engagement ring Vincent Jiao had given me 3 years ago. It used to mean the world to me. Now, it felt like a weight I needed to throw away. I walked slowly toward the front of the stage, each step echoing in my ears. The crowd's noise faded into the background. My heart beat with a strange calmness, because I knew this moment would change everything. The man I was walking toward stood tall in a tailored suit, his eyes fixed on me. Quinn. My fiancé. But I didn't stop at him. I kept walking, straight toward Vincent, who stood at the edge of the crowd, arms folded, a proud smile on his face, as if he owned the world. As if I still belonged to him. I stopped 2 steps away from him. Elena? Vincent raised an eyebrow, amused. What are you doing? I pulled the ring from the box and held it up. Returning something that no longer belongs to me, I said clearly. Before he could speak, I turned back and walked up to Quinn. I reached for his hand. Let's go, I said. He nodded silently and took my hand. Behind me, I heard gasps ripple through the crowd. Elena Lin just accepted Quinn Jiao's proposal. Wasn't she engaged to Vincent Jiao? Did she dump him at graduation? Vincent's face turned pale as he realized what just happened. I didn't look back. That night, the message exploded across social media. Everyone knew me as Vincent's fiancé. For years, we were seen as the perfect match, the golden boy from a powerful family and the quiet, loyal girl who followed him like a shadow. But the truth was uglier. He had never loved me. He loved Jenny, his high school sweetheart. He loved the idea of me, safe, useful, loyal, but never me. And now, I wasn't the same girl who waited in the shadows. I had changed everything. Because I'd gone back. Yes, back in time. Back to the moment before I made the biggest mistake of my life. Before I gave 10 years to a man who only saw me as a backup plan. I had a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. I returned home that evening to find Vincent waiting by my apartment door. Elena, he said as I walked past him, we need to talk. I didn't pause. There's nothing left to say. He grabbed my wrist, not hard, but enough to make me stop. You're doing this to get back at me, right? Choosing Quinn? You don't really love him. I turned slowly, meeting his eyes. What makes you think I need revenge? Some things just end, Vincent. He laughed bitterly. And? Don't play games with me. You've loved me since we were kids. You said you'd never marry anyone but me. That was before I realized what you really are. His eyes narrowed. And what am I, Elena? I stepped closer, calm and steady. You're the kind of man who takes everything from someone who loves him, and still keeps another woman by his side. You're the kind of man who lets someone believe she matters while calling her your little sister. You're trash, Vincent. The words slapped him harder than a hand ever could. His face twisted. Say that again. You're trash, I said again, every word cutting like ice. You used me. You used my family. You used my love. But it's over. I'm not the same girl anymore. Vincent's chest rose and fell rapidly, rage building in his eyes. You think you're better now? Just because you have Quinn? You think he actually loves you? I didn't respond. I turned and opened the door to my apartment. Elena! Vincent shouted, pushing forward. His hand slammed against the door, stopping it from closing. You can't leave me. You're mine. That's when I realized, he wasn't just angry. He was obsessed. He didn't love me. He just couldn't stand losing what he thought he owned. His grip on my shoulder was harsh, painful. I struggled to push him off. Then, without warning, another hand reached in, firm, strong, and pulled Vincent away from me. It was Quinn. He stepped in front of me like a shield, calm but furious. "Mr. Jiao," he said coldly, "I suggest you leave before I forget to be polite." Vincent lunged at him with a wild punch. Quinn easily dodged, caught his arm, and twisted it behind his back. Vincent cried out, struggling. "I'm warning you," Quinn said through clenched teeth. "If you ever touch her again, I won't be this gentle." He threw Vincent down like garbage. Vincent sat on the floor, breathing hard, eyes filled with disbelief and pain. "Elena," he croaked. I didn't even flinch. "You brought this on yourself." I shut the door in his face. The silence in the room was sharp and heavy. I leaned against the door, trying to breathe. "He won't bother you again," Quinn said softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. I nodded, lips pressed tight. But then, the dizziness hit. My knees buckled. "Elena?" Quinn caught me as I fell, panic in his voice. "Elena." Everything blurred. I knew it was happening again. My time was up. "Quinn," I whispered, grabbing his arm. "Take care of my brother." The last thing I saw was his terrified face, calling my name as I faded into darkness. The scent of disinfectant hit me first. Then the warmth of sunlight on my skin. I blinked slowly. My body was weak, but my mind was clear. I was in the hospital. I turned my head, and saw him. My brother. Standing by the window. On two legs. No wheelchair. No crutches. Just, standing. "Ethan," my voice was dry, barely a whisper. He turned instantly and rushed to my side. "You're awake," he said, relief all over his face. "You scared me to death. You fainted so suddenly." My heart raced as I sat up, ignoring the pain. I reached for his legs, touching his knees, ankles, checking everything. "Elena, what are you doing?" He laughed nervously, trying to pull away. "Did you wake up confused?" Tears rolled down my cheeks. He was fine. He really was fine. I had done it. I had changed the past. When I finally stopped crying, Ethan brought me water. "You just had low blood sugar and exhaustion," he explained. "Doctor said you need rest." I nodded, eyes still on him. He was whole. Safe. Everything I had hoped for. "By the way," Ethan added with a grin, "guess who panicked when you passed out?" I already knew. "Vincent?" I asked. "Of course," he snorted. "He ran around like a headless chicken. After what you did at graduation, we cut ties with him completely. His company's in trouble. His dad tried to beg ours for help. Dad slammed the door in their faces." I felt no pity. Only peace. I was discharged 3 days later and returned to my apartment. It was a beautiful penthouse I had bought with my own money. In this new timeline, without wasting 10 years as Vincent's wife, I had built my own success. My tech company was growing fast. I had respect. I had independence. And I had my brother, healthy and strong. As for Quinn, we were officially engaged now. It wasn't a marriage of passion, but of partnership. He respected me, stood by me, and never tried to control me. And slowly, something deeper was growing between us. A few days later, Quinn picked me up from work. When I walked out, he was already waiting, leaning against his car. He opened the door for me, as always. "I missed you," he said simply. I smiled, heart warm. "I missed you too." We drove in silence for a while, the quiet between us peaceful. Then his phone rang. He answered on speaker. "Hello," he said coolly. "Quinn. Stay away from Elena. She's mine." Vincent's voice, hysterical and shrill, blasted through the speaker. Quinn's hand tightened on the wheel. "Mr. Jiao, I warned you." "You don't understand." Vincent cried. She loved me since she was 15. She only chose you to hurt me. I chose him because he isn't you, I cut in sharply. We are done, Vincent. Don't call again. He fell silent. Then breathing. Then the line went dead. Quinn reached over and gently squeezed my hand. I'm not going anywhere, he said softly. And I believed him. News of Vincent's fall spread fast. His company crumbled. Jenny disappeared with whatever money was left. Some said Vincent had a breakdown and vanished from society. I didn't care. I had moved on. The Time Project, the one that helped me come back, was still incomplete. But I no longer chased it for escape. Now, it was about discovery. And Quinn, he was always there. Not flashy. Not wild. Just steady. Warm. Real. We worked. We dreamed. We lived. And this time I knew I wouldn't let go of something truly worth holding. The world felt different now. Each morning I woke up, sunlight pouring through the tall windows of my penthouse, I reminded myself. I was no longer trapped in the past. I wasn't the broken woman who spent 10 years serving a man who never truly cared. Now, I was Elena Lin. CEO of my own company. Older, wiser, and no longer scared of love or loss. But freedom came with challenges. Especially when someone like Vincent Jiao refused to disappear quietly. It started with silence. After Quinn ended his call that day, we assumed Vincent had finally backed off. But deep down, I knew better. He was a man who didn't accept defeat. Especially not from me. So when my assistant, Rachel, burst into my office 2 weeks later, holding a tablet in her shaking hands, I knew something was wrong before she even spoke. You need to see this, she said, her voice tight. I took the tablet. A video was playing. The footage was shaky, clearly recorded from someone's phone. In the video, Vincent stood outside a bar, red-eyed and wild. He was shouting something to a group of reporters. She cheated on me, he roared. Elena Lin cheated on me with Quinn Xiao. I was her fiancé. I gave her everything, and she used me to climb higher. The reporters ate it up. More clips followed, doctored photos, fake messages, twisted stories. All designed to paint me as the villain. The internet loved drama. Within hours, the video was trending on every platform. My company's name was being dragged into the mud. I handed the tablet back to Rachel and stood. Call a press conference, I said calmly. Today. She blinked. What should I tell them? That I'm not hiding, I said. And neither is the truth. The conference room was packed with journalists by the time I stepped onto the small stage. The air buzzed with questions, microphones pointed like weapons. Quinn stood at the back of the room, silent and strong. Our eyes met for a second. Just one look from him gave me strength. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone. There have been a lot of rumors in the past 24 hours, I began, my voice clear. Some of them accuse me of betrayal. Some say I used someone. Some say I am a liar. I'm here to set the record straight. I paused, letting the silence hang. I was engaged to Vincent Jiao. That's true. But what the public didn't know is that for years, Vincent kept a relationship with another woman behind my back. I found out months ago. I stayed silent for the sake of both our families. But now that he has chosen to attack my character, I have no reason to hide. Gasps. Flashbulbs. Whispers filled the air. I did not cheat, I continued. I ended our engagement after I discovered the truth. I chose to be with someone who respects me. That is not betrayal. That is self-respect. A reporter raised a hand. Do you have proof of his affair? I smiled slightly. I don't need to show proof. He already did. Ask him who Jenny Lin is. Silence. Everyone in the room scribbled the name down. Some already started searching it. Another reporter stood. What about your relationship with Mr. Quinn Xiao? Is it serious? Quinn stepped forward. It is, he said simply. And it's none of your business. The room chuckled nervously. But the message was clear. We weren't afraid. By the time we left the building, the internet had turned. People were starting to dig into Jenny Lin's background. Photos of her and Vincent, hidden in old blogs and forgotten forums, started appearing online. Rachel called me later that night, laughing. You're trending again, but this time they're calling you a queen for walking away from a cheater. I smiled but didn't laugh. I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because deep down, I knew Vincent wasn't done. He was quiet now. Which made him even more dangerous. 1 week later, my company's legal team received a letter. Vincent was suing us. The claim? Intellectual property theft. He said I had stolen a software prototype from his team 3 years ago, when we were still engaged, and used it to build my own tech empire. It was a lie, of course. The software was mine. I had designed it from scratch. But in business, lies still caused damage. Clients paused their contracts. Investors started asking questions. Stocks dropped. Vincent knew what he was doing. He couldn't hurt me emotionally anymore. So now, he wanted to destroy me professionally. I sat in my office, reading through the lawsuit, my fingers tightening around the papers. Quinn walked in silently and placed a cup of coffee on my desk. I looked up, exhausted. He's trying to ruin me. He won't, Quinn said firmly. We'll fight this. It's going to get messy, I warned. He's not playing fair. I don't need him to play fair, he replied. I just need him to lose. For days, I worked nonstop. Meetings. Lawyers. Crisis management. I barely slept. Barely ate. But I didn't break. Because I remembered the future I came from. In that timeline, I had stayed silent. I had let Vincent walk all over me. I let his lies become truth because I was afraid to fight back. Not this time. This time, I had weapons. Knowledge. And fire. And one unexpected ally. Quinn. Every night, he brought me food. Stayed by my side. Spoke when I couldn't. Fought when I was tired. And slowly, the line between partnership and something deeper started to blur. One night, after a long meeting, I fell asleep at my desk. I woke up to find a blanket around my shoulders and Quinn sitting across from me, still working on his laptop. Why are you here? I whispered, my voice groggy. He looked up and smiled gently. Because you are. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. And realized, he wasn't just my partner in business. He was becoming my partner in life. The trial began 3 weeks later. Vincent walked into the courtroom with a fake smile and a team of expensive lawyers. I walked in with Quinn beside me, my head held high. The judge asked for opening statements. Vincent's lawyer started with a dramatic speech. My client, Mr. Jiao, was betrayed not only in love but in business. He trusted Ms. Lin with a prototype that she later claimed as her own, lies. Layered on more lies. When it was our turn, my lawyer stood calmly. We are not here to play games. We have timestamps, project drafts, and witnesses, all proving Ms. Lin's ownership of the software. Then we played our ace. A video recording. From 3 years ago. A meeting between me and my old tech team. In the video, I presented the prototype and explained the concept. The date stamp was clear. Weeks before Vincent ever saw the design. The courtroom fell silent. Vincent's face turned white. The judge leaned forward. Do you have a response, Mr. Jiao? Vincent stood, stammering. That video, it's fake. It's not, the judge said. Motion to dismiss the case is granted. Bang. Just like that. It was over. He had lost. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ms. Lin. Any words for Mr. Jiao? I stopped for a second. Then turned to the cameras. Yes, I said. I forgive him. And walked away. Because that was the final blow. Forgiveness. Not for him. But for me. Weeks passed. Business recovered. Reputation stronger than ever. And one evening, as the sun set across the skyline, Quinn and I stood on the rooftop of my building, watching the city glow beneath us. Thank you, I said softly, leaning against the railing. For everything. He looked at me with that quiet intensity. You would have survived without me. But I'm glad I was here. I don't want to survive anymore, I whispered. I want to live. He stepped closer. Then live with me. I turned. He was holding a ring. Not flashy. Not dramatic. Just simple. And honest. My breath caught. Quinn, you don't have to say yes now, he said quickly. But I had to ask. Because I'm not Vincent. I don't want to own you. I want to walk beside you. Always. I looked at the ring. Then at him. Then back at the city. And I knew this wasn't the ending of a painful story. This was the beginning of a new one. One I chose. One I built. One that no one could steal from me again. I didn't say yes right away. Quinn waited patiently after that rooftop moment. He didn't push. Didn't ask again. He simply stayed close, silent, steady, and strong. And I needed that. Because even though Vincent was out of my life now, some wounds took longer to heal. Some nights I still woke up breathless, heart pounding, haunted by memories from my past life. The betrayal. The heartbreak. The loneliness. 10 years of being used, lied to, and tossed aside like I was nothing. But every time I opened my eyes, I found myself in a different world. A better one. In this world, I was not weak. I had my own voice. My own power. My own choices. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to let my heart believe again. But healing wasn't a straight line. Especially when ghosts from the past refused to stay buried. It began with a visit. A week after the trial ended, Rachel came into my office again, eyes wide with concern. There's a woman here to see you, she said carefully. She says she's an old friend. I looked up from my desk. Name? She hesitated. Karina Jiao. My fingers froze mid-typing. Karina. That name hit me like a slap across the face. In my past life, Karina had been my closest friend. My sister in everything but blood. She was there for me through my early career, through my engagement to Vincent, through every emotional storm. Until I found out she was one of the storms. Karina had known about Vincent and Jenny. She had covered for him. Lied to me. Stood next to me at my engagement party, smiling, while knowing he was already cheating. She was part of the betrayal. And now she was here? I stood slowly. Send her in. Karina looked exactly the same. Elegant, poised, dressed in a sleek white coat and heels too high to be practical. Her makeup was perfect, her perfume expensive. But I noticed something different this time, her eyes. They weren't confident anymore. They were nervous. Shaky. Like a woman who had burned every bridge and didn't know where to go next. Elena, she breathed when she saw me. You look incredible. I didn't smile. You have 5 minutes. She blinked, clearly expecting more kindness. I just wanted to see you. To talk. We were best friends once. No, I said calmly. We weren't. I just didn't know you were fake yet. Her face twisted. You're still angry. I understand. Do you? I stepped closer, my voice sharp. Do you understand what it feels like to find out the one person you trusted was helping the man who ruined you? Do you understand what it's like to be humiliated, then realize your friend was part of it the entire time? I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, I said. Over and over. She lowered her head. Vincent used me too. He promised me things. Power. A company. A future. And when I finally realized he was never going to give me any of it, it was too late. I lost everything. I stared at her, unsure whether to feel pity or disgust. Why are you really here, Karina? She looked up slowly, her voice trembling. I'm scared, she admitted. Vincent, he's changing. He's not just angry. He's obsessed. He blames you for everything. He's talking about revenge. About taking you down completely. I tried to warn him to stop, but he won't listen. My heart chilled. He's gathering investors, she continued. Planning a rival company. He's obsessed with destroying everything you've built. I crossed my arms. Why are you telling me this? Her voice cracked. Because I want to make it right. I didn't believe her. But I believed the threat. Vincent wasn't done. Not by a long shot. That night, I told Quinn everything. He listened silently, his jaw tightening as I spoke. She's scared, I said. But she's also dangerous. I don't know if I can trust her. You can't, he said simply. But you can use her. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She wants redemption? Fine. Let her earn it. If she still has ties to Vincent, she can feed us information. I hesitated. That's risky. So is war, he replied. And that's what this is. Over the next few weeks, Karina came back. I didn't welcome her. I didn't forgive her. But I did listen. She told us about Vincent's meetings, his shady investors, his secret deals. He was moving fast, trying to launch a tech product that could rival ours. A rushed prototype. Buggy. But dangerous if it reached the market. He's betting everything on this launch, she said one evening, her voice low. He's calling it V-Lens. Says it'll crush your company in one move. Quinn narrowed his eyes. What's the launch date? Next month. Too soon. We didn't have much time. War meant strategy. We gathered our top developers. Doubled our efforts. Polished our product until it gleamed. Our version was better. Smoother. Real. But Vincent had something we didn't, a scandal-loving media. He started feeding stories to the press. Elena's product is a copy of mine, he claimed. She's stealing again. And this time, he paid people to back him up. Fake witnesses. Online bots. Reviewers spreading lies. The pressure mounted. Even my board members started to panic. I stood before them during one meeting, facing a storm of questions. Why is this man still able to damage us? One director snapped. Because truth takes time, I answered. But lies travel fast. We can't afford a second scandal, another warned. Our investors are nervous. I nodded slowly. Then turned to Quinn. He understood instantly. It was time for our move. A week before Vincent's launch, we scheduled a private tech demonstration. Only for trusted clients. Investors. Analysts. But we had one surprise guest. Jenny Lin. The woman Vincent had hidden for years. The one he once loved in secret. The one who helped him cover up his cheating. She sat in the back, watching silently. And just before I ended the presentation, I looked directly at her. Some people build things with love, I said. Some build with lies. But you can't build a future on betrayal. It always falls apart. Her face paled. After the event, she left quietly. And 3 days later, Jenny went public. She released screenshots, voice recordings, emails between her and Vincent. Proof that his product wasn't just flawed, it was stolen. From another startup. Not mine. Someone else entirely. Within hours, Vincent's name was blacklisted. His launch was cancelled. His investors fled. And his company? Collapsed. I watched the news from my office. The anchor's voice was calm. Vincent Jiao is under investigation for fraud, intellectual theft, and investor deception. Justice. Finally. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure. Rachel peeked into the office, eyes wide. It's over. I nodded. Almost. Almost? I turned toward the window, watching the rain fall softly. I still haven't answered him. She smiled knowingly. Do you want to? I think I'm finally ready to. That night, I cooked dinner at home. Just me. No assistants. No chefs. Just a quiet kitchen and an old recipe I used to love before the world got complicated. Quinn walked in, surprised. You cooked? I shrugged. Sort of. Don't get too excited. He grinned and pulled out a chair. Over pasta and wine, we didn't talk about business. We talked about dreams. About the future. About the kind of life we both wanted. And then, as the night deepened, I reached into the drawer beside me. Pulled out the ring. I'm ready, I whispered. His eyes lit up. You sure? I smiled. I want to build something new. With you. He stood and wrapped his arms around me, holding me like I was something precious. Because to him, I was. Not a weapon. Not a tool. Just. Elena. Loved. Chosen. Free. The world didn't change overnight. But I did. The moment I said yes to Quinn, something inside me finally settled. It wasn't just about love or marriage. It was about choosing myself. About allowing joy back into my life without guilt or fear. For the first time in both lives, I wasn't surviving, I was living. The media slowly moved on from the Vincent scandal. His name disappeared from headlines. His company's remnants were swallowed by lawsuits. And me? I kept building. My company grew stronger, our team tighter, our name trusted. But while the world saw a confident CEO, the real gift was the quiet happiness that bloomed in the spaces between early morning coffee with Quinn, Sunday walks through the park, and lazy evenings where we cooked together and talked about nothing and everything. But life doesn't stay still. And the past has a way of knocking when you least expect it. It started with a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I found it on my desk one morning, tucked beneath a pile of paperwork. The handwriting was familiar. Almost too familiar. I hesitated, then opened it. Elena, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't expect it. But I need to tell you something before it's too late. Vincent is not done. I overheard something weeks ago before everything collapsed. He was meeting someone. Not a business partner. Someone dangerous. A man named Jian Luo. He's not just involved in shady investments, he has a past in blackmail, extortion, and manipulation. And he wants to use Vincent for more than just revenge. He's planning something bigger. Something illegal. I didn't know who else to warn. Please be careful. Karina, my heart skipped. Jian Luo. That name didn't show up in any of the court files or public records. But it sounded familiar. Too familiar. I stared at the paper for a long moment before folding it neatly and locking it in my drawer. Then I called Quinn. He didn't waste a second. I've heard that name, he said as we sat across from each other in my office that evening. He's not a public figure, but he operates behind the scenes. Deals in tech leaks, market manipulation, and, rumor has it, corporate espionage. I frowned. You think he's trying to use Vincent to get to us? Maybe not just us. But you're still a threat to Vincent. If this Jian wants to build influence fast, he could use Vincent's anger to do it. I leaned back in my chair, tension in my shoulders. Why now? Why keep coming after me when everything's already over? Quinn reached over, his hand wrapping around mine. Because you won. And men like them hate that more than anything. I met his eyes. Steady. Calm. Protective. He always made me feel safe. But safety doesn't mean silence. Not when something darker is rising. The next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was subtle at first. A man in a black hoodie standing outside my office longer than necessary, a car that followed me a little too far after work, strange calls that hung up as soon as I answered. I told Quinn. He took it seriously. That night, he added a new security system to my apartment. Hired private protection. Increased surveillance at my office. I'll keep you safe, he promised. But a deeper part of me knew, I needed to keep myself strong too. And that meant going to the one person I never thought I'd speak to again. Karina met me at a small cafe on the edge of the city. She looked different this time. Less polished. Less sure of herself. There were dark circles under her eyes and tension in the way she held her coffee. You got my letter, she said quietly. I nodded. Why are you really helping me, Karina? She looked up, and for the first time I saw something raw in her expression. Regret. Real, heavy regret. Because I watched you fall once, she said. And I helped push you. I won't do it again. I didn't respond. I couldn't forgive her. Not completely. But I could listen. Jian Luo isn't just using Vincent, she continued. He wants to infiltrate tech companies. Steal designs. Sabotage product launches. You're his first target because he thinks you're still cleaning up after the scandal. She slid a flash drive across the table. What's this? I asked. Emails. Recordings. Vincent met with Jian 6 times in secret. This has the dates, locations, and what they discussed. It's not complete, but it's enough to get you started. I picked it up slowly. What's in it for you? She gave a sad smile. Peace. I didn't know if she'd ever find it. But I was done hating her. I stood. Thank you. And then I walked away. We listened to the recordings that night. Me, Quinn, and his cybersecurity team. Vincent's voice was easy to identify. Cold. Bitter. I want her destroyed, he said. I don't care how. Leak her data. Ruin her launch. She deserves to suffer. Jian's voice was low and calculating. We'll need someone on the inside. I know a few weak spots, Vincent replied. I clenched my fists. Even after everything, he was still trying. Still poisoning. Quinn stood beside me, arms crossed, expression unreadable. We need to act fast, he said. If they're planning a breach, we have to tighten every system. Already on it, one of his team members said. But we also need to expose this. I turned to Quinn. If we leak this too early, it'll look like we're playing dirty. Like I'm dragging up old drama. But if we wait too long, he said, finishing the thought. They'll strike first. I took a breath. Let's prepare both paths. Lock our defenses. Then set the truth free. 2 weeks later, we launched a full press release. But not the dramatic, vengeful kind. It was factual. Simple. Professional. We showed the recordings. The emails. The timeline. We didn't mention names except Jian's. We let the facts speak for themselves. And the world listened. Tech blogs picked it up. Business media followed. Suddenly, people weren't talking about Elena the scandal survivor. They were talking about Elena the warrior. The one who stood tall, stayed honest, and didn't back down. Vincent tried to fight back. Claimed the recordings were edited. That he was being framed. But it was too late. No one believed him anymore. His words had lost their power. And Jian? Vanished. No one could find him. But I wasn't afraid. Because now, I was ready. For anything. That weekend, Quinn took me to the coast. No emails. No meetings. Just sea breeze, quiet roads, and a cozy little cottage by the waves. I walked barefoot on the beach while the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and gold. Quinn came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You know, he said softly, we've been through more in a year than most people go through in a lifetime. I smiled. And yet, here we are. He turned me toward him. Elena Chen. Warrior. CEO. And love of my life. I laughed. That was corny. Wait for it. He reached into his pocket. And pulled out a second ring. Let's make this official. I stared at it, simple, elegant, beautiful. Like the life I wanted with him. Yes, I whispered again, for the second time. But this time it was forever. He slipped it on my finger. And kissed me under the golden sky, where no ghosts could follow. Where only our future waited. Bright. Open. Ours. The wedding wasn't grand. It wasn't covered by media or crowded with unfamiliar faces. It was simple. Intimate. Just family, a few close friends, and the sound of ocean waves in the background. We chose a quiet villa by the sea, surrounded by gardens and sunlight. I wore a soft ivory dress, light and flowing, nothing too fancy. Quinn wore a dark suit, no tie, his smile brighter than anything else. As we exchanged vows, I felt the final piece of my old life slip away. No more regrets. No more looking back. Just the future. And him, standing with me. When the ceremony ended and everyone cheered, I looked around and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. After the wedding, we returned to the city and slipped back into our regular routines. Life didn't pause just because we were newlyweds. But something had shifted between us. We were closer now. More in sync. We started sharing more, our dreams, our fears, the tiny thoughts we used to keep to ourselves. He listened to my ideas about expanding the company. I helped him plan a new tech startup he'd been dreaming of for years. Our partnership was built on respect. No one tried to control the other. We were equals, in business, in love, in life. But happiness has a way of making people around you uncomfortable. Especially those who've lost everything. I hadn't thought about Vincent in weeks. His story had quietly vanished from the news cycle. His company was gone. His name was forgotten. But one afternoon, while I was meeting a potential investor at a downtown cafe, I saw him again. He looked different. Thinner. Pale. Hollow eyes. Like someone who hadn't slept in months. He stood outside across the street, staring straight at me. For a second, I froze. But then I straightened, lifted my chin, and met his gaze. He didn't approach. He just watched. And then he walked away. My heart pounded, but not with fear. With finality. He was a shadow now. And I had no time for shadows. That night, I told Quinn what happened. He wasn't surprised. I figured he might show up again, he said. You're the only thing he still fixates on. He didn't do anything, I said. Just stood there. Watching. That's how it starts, Quinn said, his voice tight. We'll increase security again. I'll make sure he stays away, for good this time. But I shook my head. No. I think we should ignore him. He's already lost everything. Giving him attention might be what he wants. Quinn looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But if anything changes, you tell me immediately. I promised. And hoped it wouldn't come to that. Meanwhile, life moved forward. My company's latest research project made headlines in the science world, an AI system that could detect early signs of rare diseases through voice analysis. Investors poured in. Universities reached out. We were invited to speak at global tech summits. Quinn's startup launched its first prototype, a security system powered by emotion recognition and behavioral patterns. It was a hit. We were building something real. Together. And for the first time, the world was starting to see me for what I truly was, not someone tied to a scandal, not a woman scorned. But a leader. A visionary. My own person. And just when things seemed perfect, the past knocked again. Harder this time. It happened on a rainy Wednesday. I was heading into my office when I noticed something wrong. My assistant looked pale. People were whispering in the hallway. What's going on? I asked. She handed me a folder, hands shaking. Someone leaked company files. Internal research. It's all over the internet. They're saying your AI project stole data from another startup. What? My voice was sharp. Cold. That's impossible. She nodded. I know. But the media's eating it up. We've already lost 2 potential contracts this morning. I rushed to my computer. Hundreds of comments. Angry headlines. Accusations of theft, betrayal, dishonesty. And in the middle of it all, a post from Vincent. I warned you all. Some people build empires by stealing from others. Truth always comes out. Quinn arrived 15 minutes later. He looked furious. I've traced the leak, he said. It came from an old employee of mine. One Vincent tried to bribe months ago. I fired him when I found out. But he must have held on to something. This could destroy everything, I said quietly. No. It won't. Quinn took my hand. We'll fight this. And so we did. We called a press conference the next day. I stood before cameras, tired but calm. This company was built on truth, research, and innovation. We do not steal. And we do not lie. Then we presented the evidence. Timestamped codes. Patents registered long before the supposed theft. Testimonies from research partners. By the end of the presentation, the narrative flipped again. The media started printing retractions. Online voices went silent. Vincent didn't post again. But I knew this wasn't over. He was desperate now. And desperate men do dangerous things. Later that night, Quinn and I sat on the rooftop of our apartment, watching the rain slow to a drizzle. He won't stop, I said. No, Quinn agreed. But he'll lose. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I wish he'd just let go. He can't. You were the last thing he ever had control over. And now you're everything he can't touch. I closed my eyes. This wasn't how I imagined my story would go. But maybe that's what made it real. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. Complicated. Painful. But I had fought through every part of it. And I wasn't done yet. A few days later, I got a call from someone I never expected. Jenny. Vincent's ex-fiancé. Meet me, she said. There's something you need to know. It's about Vincent. And about what he plans to do next. Her voice was tight. Urgent. I didn't trust her. But something in her tone made me say yes. We met at a quiet bookstore on the edge of town. She looked worn out. Nervous. I left him, she said without even saying hello. He went too far. I know, I replied. No. You don't. She leaned in closer. He's planning something worse. He's talking to people again, people who can erase digital footprints, forge identities, destroy reputations. She pulled out a small device. A flash drive. He asked me to plant this in your company's system. I said I would. But I didn't. I'm done with him. I stared at her. Why are you really helping me? She looked me in the eye. Because he's not just hurting you anymore. He's hurting everyone. And because I was once where you are. Loving someone who broke me. I took the flash drive. If this is real, we'll stop him. She nodded. Good. Because if you don't, no one else will. That night, Quinn and his team analyzed the flash drive. It was worse than we thought. Backdoor malware. Code designed to corrupt our data, redirect funds, destroy the AI model we had built. Vincent had crossed the line. There was no more gray area. He wasn't just a bitter ex. He was a criminal. And this time I wouldn't just defend myself. I would end it. For good. The storm was coming. But I wasn't afraid anymore. After we discovered Vincent's plan to sabotage everything we had worked for, there was no hesitation. The decision was made. We would take him down, no more games, no more holding back. We brought in experts. Cybersecurity teams, legal teams, every person we could trust to help us fight back. It wasn't about revenge. It was about stopping him before he could hurt anyone else. His bitterness had turned into something far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The night before we took action, Quinn and I stayed up late, going over the evidence. The stolen data, the backdoor codes, everything we had gathered. I couldn't shake the image of Vincent standing outside that cafe, looking like a ghost of the man I had once known. He had tried to control me, manipulate me, and ruin everything I cared about. But now, it was my turn. I turned to Quinn. This ends tomorrow, right? He looked at me, his eyes unwavering. It ends now. We go public. We file the legal papers. And we make sure he never gets near you, or anyone else, again. The next morning, I walked into our office with a calm that surprised even me. Vincent thought he had the upper hand. He thought he could take everything from me. But he hadn't counted on one thing, the fire inside me. The meeting room was filled with my team, lawyers, investigators, tech experts, all there to finally finish what we had started. I stood in front of them. This is our final battle. We have the evidence. We have the proof. We're taking this to the authorities. We're going to expose him for who he truly is. We'll make sure his company is never a threat again. The room was silent for a moment, then someone spoke up. Let's do this. It wasn't easy. The legal proceedings took weeks, but we had everything we needed. The charges against Vincent were severe: corporate espionage, fraud, cyber-terrorism. His empire was crumbling, piece by piece. He was arrested shortly after the first round of court hearings. The world watched as his company was liquidated. His name became synonymous with scandal, with failure. His wealth evaporated, and no one was willing to trust him anymore. But what broke him more than anything wasn't the loss of his company, it was the realization that I was free. I wasn't the person he thought I was. I wasn't his to control. I was my own woman. And the truth was, I had already moved on. The weeks that followed were filled with strange peace. It was like the world had reset. All the anger, all the fear, all the chaos, it was gone. Quinn and I continued with our projects, side by side. The company thrived, as did his startup. We worked hard, but it was different now. We weren't just business partners anymore. We were in this together. And at the end of every long day, when we were exhausted and the world seemed too big, we found solace in the quiet moments we shared. We cooked dinner together. We took walks in the park. We spent hours talking about nothing and everything. It was the kind of life I had always dreamed of, but never thought I'd get. Not after everything. But sometimes, the best things come when you least expect them. I thought about Vincent. About what he had done to me. About all the years I had lost. And yet, I felt no bitterness. I had learned to forgive him, not for him, but for me. Forgiveness was a release. A letting go. It wasn't about excusing his actions, but about freeing myself from the hold he had on me. I had been angry. I had been hurt. But now, I was healed. And in the end, that was all that mattered. One quiet evening, as Quinn and I sat on the balcony of our apartment overlooking the city, I turned to him and asked the question that had been on my mind for a while. "Do you ever think about the future?" I asked softly. He looked at me, his expression thoughtful. "Every day. And every day, it looks better with you in it." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest I hadn't known I needed. The past was behind me now. Vincent, my former life, all the pain, it was gone. What mattered now was the life I had built. With Quinn, with my work, with my own strength. The future was no longer a question. It was a promise. Months later, things were still quiet. Vincent's name faded into oblivion, his past a cautionary tale for those who let ambition consume them. His story wasn't worth telling anymore. My company grew. Quinn's grew. And together, we continued to make a difference in the world. I found myself more confident, more driven than I had ever been before. And every time I looked at Quinn, I was reminded that sometimes, the right person comes into your life when you least expect it. He had stood by me when I had nothing. When I was broken. When I couldn't even see a way forward. And now, I stood beside him, stronger, wiser, and with a heart full of peace. It wasn't the life I had imagined for myself at first, but it was the one I was meant to have. And I wouldn't change a thing. 1 year after Vincent's fall, I stood in front of my office window, watching the city below. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the skyline. It was quiet now, calm. I had come a long way from the woman who had been manipulated, controlled, and broken by love. Now, I was a woman who had learned to trust again, not in others, but in herself. I had found my place in the world. And with Quinn by my side, I knew that no matter what came next, we would face it together. The future was no longer just a dream. It was my reality. And it was perfect.